Hello, hello. How's it going? Seeing some new faces and some old faces, which makes me very excited. Y'all ready to chat about Do Nothing? Woo woo.
Yeah,
Hey, how's it going? Thank you so much for coming back. So you're here for Managed Book Club. Thank you so much for coming. We're gonna let a bunch of folks in the meantime, but as per always, we're gonna start with a quick little check-in. So in the chat or in reactions, if you could share how you're feeling. Green is great, yellow, okay, red, terrible. If you want to share why, you totally can. I might put you on the spot and ask why, just to bug people. And Ashik, is the heart to kind of react like happy to be here, or is it I'm
Yeah,
feeling red to
yeah.
okay,
Happy to be here. Yeah. Thank you.
got it.
The first time here, so I'm glad to see all of you here.
Yeah, really glad to have you. Okay, Courtney, checking in with the yellow. Thank you so much for your vulnerability. Did you want to share why you're feeling yellow today?
I think generally too many meetings this week, but it's all good stuff. It's just a lot and not as much time to like think and execute on things.
Yeah, that's definitely tough. And as far as very pertinent to like the subject matter that we'll be talking about today, and hopefully somebody during manager roundtable can bring up how to reduce maybe that meeting load, but something a lot of managers face, and something we've been hearing a lot. I saw some greens flash up and stuff, so there was a quick little reaction. I'm going to assume that some folks are having a good day. That's fantastic. For folks just joining, we're doing a quick little green, yellow, red check-in. So just go ahead and share in the chat or over your reactions, how you've been feeling. I might put you on the spot and ask. So just be aware. But personally, I'm probably feeling a little bit lime. Our first session this morning was 7 a.m. So got me like really gassed up bright and early. But we had an amazing discussion, and I'm just like really, y'all are in for a treat. I'm just super excited. So yeah, exciting stuff. And we might give it a minute or two more just to catch anybody who's a little bit late from their last meeting. Okay. Oh, Fabio, you are green. Do you want to share with us why you're feeling green today?
yeah. Hi. Nice to meet you all. Yeah, it was a nice day at work. So I'm in Italy, so the day is finished, and it was nice. Good connection with my colleagues.
Amazing. I love to hear it. And a good work day is always super, super nice. Thank you so much for joining, by the way, super late at night. Let me know next time if you want to be added to our EMEA leaders group so we don't have you join so late. But amazing stuff. Okay, I think without further ado, we can move on to some of our programming. So just want to check really quick. Mic is okay. You guys can hear me all right. And also screens we can see fine. Perfect. Okay. Figured I'd ask that now. So might as well introduce ourselves. My name is Yen. I'm co-founder of Kona. We're the manager co-pilot and employee well-being platform right in Slack. Founded this company in college at UCLA with two friends. We just all agreed remote work sucked in 2019 and we wanted to make it better. We definitely did not expect this kind of idea to blossom into what it is now. But thankfully, due to this little startup, I got to meet Monica, my wonderful co-host. Monica, take the floor.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Monica. I am based in Vienna right now. I am the first marketer at Kona, and I'm a little nerd. I love books. I read 100 books every year. So books and management are my biggest passions. So managing book club is the absolute perfect fit. I'll be taking care of all the technical stuff today. So if you see me looking down, that is not because I'm ignoring you, but it is because I'm making sure everything is working. Have fun.
We all deserve a Monica in our lives. Thank you so much for handling everything, dear. So throwing into the chat right now, this is our book club hub. If it's your first time seeing it, just know it's your center for everything book club related. If you can head over to that club member directory, you'll be able to see the roster for all the folks here, add them on LinkedIn. The intent for today's session is to make sure you can make some friendships and don't let those friendships stop with just these little 1-hour sessions that we have here. So meet, greet, get to know folks, and yeah, let's kick off. I'm trying to put on my best NPR voice for this little commercial, but this is sponsored by Kona, of course. And so I wanted to give a quick little demo on the features that are most relevant to the subject matter that we're talking about today. So I'm just going to switch screens really, really quick. And Laura, you're gonna get a kick out of this, that this is Andrew's face over here. But essentially, if you've never seen Kona before, it's this little check-in, does that same little green, yellow, red right in your Slack, asking how folks are feeling. And inside your channel, we're a very small team, so this can go inside our HQ channel, but inside your direct channel with your direct reports locked, you can share how things have been going. I checked in as groggy. Sid is feeling sick. He overexerted himself in Hawaii. Andrew overexerted himself in climbing. A lot of overexertion going on. Amanda went to Trader Joe's. So as you can see, you can basically check in and see how folks are feeling and also check in on teammates, understand blockers in real time, and even better yet, Kona can be your support system as well. So as you check in, maybe as overwhelmed like I did the other day, Kona will actually give you live tips and give direct reports live tips so they can know how to regulate themselves and also take care of their own well-being. So this has been the unsolicited commercial for Kona. And now that you've seen that, we're going to dive into our regularly scheduled programming for today. So discussion rules, as always, we want to create a container, especially for this discussion. It does get quite vulnerable and we're doing a lot of unlearning in this process. Session part 1 talks a lot about the problems that lead us to workaholicism, and part 2 will be about addressing those problems. But calling problems out loud, just want to call out unlearning is very uncomfortable. Please embrace the suck with us, keep an open mind. It's part of the process. Number 2, assume positive intent. Of course, we all have, we're all operating on these little Zoom screens and it can be really easy to lose kind of intent or nuance of messaging. So keep positive intent, acknowledge, validate, and create space for diverse perspectives. And as a little housekeeping task, raise your hand if you're going to chat. We have a smaller group, but still sometimes it just keeps from folks talking over one another. So if we're all good on these rules, then let's dive right in. We have a huge kind of agenda for you today, and it's really exciting and highly interactive. You just saw the introduction. Next, we're going to go into part 1 review. We go over different ideas in the book. And as always, I have open questions for all of you to discuss. Then we go into our limiting beliefs workshop, a fun little workshop where we basically piece apart the things that are holding us back from being able to truly do nothing and embrace idleness. And then the manager roundtable, where you can bring up a question and get some feedback from your fellow engineering managers here, engineering product design managers. We have some really awesome folks. So let's dive right in. And actually, let me open up the chat so I can keep an eye on. If you have any questions, by the way, you can throw it into the chat. There have been some pretty lively ones. So part 1 review. In the introduction, Celeste Headlee brings this question to us. We work feverishly to make ourselves happy. So why are we so miserable? Why do we measure our time in terms of efficiency instead of meaning? Why can't we just take a break? And having asked myself, why can't I take a break multiple times? And I'm sure other people have resonance as well. This is something I'm very interested in addressing. So we learned first about the cult of efficiency, and the book literally starts with the sentence that punched me in the throat. We answer work emails on a Sunday night. Does anybody else answer emails on a Sunday night? I definitely know I do. I see some guilty smiles and stuff. We read endless articles about how to hack our brains. We are members of the cult of efficiency, and we're killing ourselves with productivity. So let's dive in. What is the cult of efficiency? It's a group whose members believe fervently in the virtue of constant activity and finding the most efficient way to accomplish just about anything and everything. They're busy all the time and they take it on faith that all their effort is saving time and making their lives better. So let's start with our first question. The cult of efficiency relies on a belief that following a rigorous schedule of activities will improve your life. In what ways do we reinforce that as a society? And what are the consequences of this belief? Hard-hitting question for around noon PST, but let's dive right in. If I can get some hands, we can get this discussion started. Yeah, Hannah, go ahead.
Well, I feel like through that we are actually losing the flexibility, because when I look at my own schedule, it's really like packed from morning to the evening, and all of a sudden, if you want to squeeze something in, it's just impossible, and then you're just overwhelmed with all the scheduled activities, and it can only follow that schedule. And I think this is the part where actually it's limiting the living in the moment. That's what I think is part of the consequence of what we're doing right now to ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And this idea that I'm trying to do so much, but I'm not really present for any of it is such an interesting thing. I think, Andrew, I saw you raise your hand just now.
Yeah, I did. Sorry. So I think for me perspective, is it's almost the mindset of if someone else working harder than me, so I have to have a fixed schedule to make sure there's no downtime, because if I'm having downtime, some other person is working harder than me, then they're going to be like one up me, for example. So I feel like that's the culture of our site today, is that mindset, at least how I was raised, from my Asian culture, it was like, hey, you got to outwork the other person. All this stuff, people use like the hustle word, like Gary Vaynerchuk says all the time, hustle, which then ingrains in our brain that we have to work harder than the next person. That means long hours on schedule, answering emails on Sunday. That takes away. And the consequences is, like, for example, for me, I lose time with like my family. I get more burnt out quicker for the most part, just to kind of catch up with something, or to trying to be better or work up in my career. So I think that's where a lot of the reinforcement comes from society, at least from how I see it. And consequences, again, is losing valuable time, or even just decompressing and doing other things yourself that can hurt you in the long run.
Absolutely. And I love the idea that like there's so much cultural nuance to it as another Asian American, 6th-gen Chinese American. Like, yeah, you just kind of get embedded that hard work is in our DNA, that as Chinese people, we work hard. And that's part of who we are as like a culture, which is such an interesting thing to kind of try to separate. I'm going to take Courtney. Laura, unfortunately, I'm going to have to move on to the next one. Sorry. Courtney, please.
I even think about like my team meetings are on Mondays, and like the first question I ask in the team meeting is like, how was everyone's weekend? Didn't anyone do anything exciting? And it's like it creates this sense of like I have to have done something in order to share. And so this idea of like, it's okay if you did nothing. Like if you just sat on your couch, like watched TV or read a book, or just like literally slept the entire weekend, that's fine. But I think we even reinforce it in the ways that we like check in with each other, check in with our teams, sort of the expectations we have of each other.
Such an acute observation, and it's going to make me kind of overthink a lot of awesome questions. So I really appreciate that call out. When we meet somebody for the first time, one of the first questions we ask is, what do you do for work? And that's just something to think about, put a pin in. Moving on to our next session here. It wasn't always like this. I think Celeste Headlee does a fantastic job taking history and data into it to really portray the idea that this is a modern innovation. Certainly, we're mostly better off than the average European peasant in the 1600s, but we do in general work longer hours. That's an indisputable fact. And as I threw on all the different types of like dates that she had in this book, you start to get this timeline that really shows how much we've gone towards the world of always working. Athenians in Greece had 6 months of holidays per year. Can you imagine what it would be like to have half of your year off to just vacations? Then we had medieval peasants working no more than 8 hours a day. All of that's changed with the industrial age, the light bulb, self-made man stories, consumerism in World War II. And suddenly we're kind of hitting the 90s in the last 30 years of self-help, productivity, life hacks, always working. Right now, the self-help industry is estimated to be worth 13 billion. That's billion with a B. And so we've really moved towards this new world of work. But emphasis on the like word new. This is not how we used to be operating. So another question for the group. For the last 300,000 years, Homo sapiens did not work 40 hours a week or more than 300 days a year. Our working habits drastically changed from the industrial age. Did this research surprise you? And is constant work actually a fundamental human concept? Let's talk about it. Go first if folks are feeling a little shy. I was mind boggled and mind blown. The idea that like we have not always worked this way. I just assume that that's just that there's kind of this linear progress that as we move through time, we're getting better. But the idea that we're not getting better in that certain way is so interesting. Laura, did you have stuff to add? Oh, you're muted.
I don't think it was so much surprising for me as much as just that recognition that work getting tied into a way of survival, really, and that prior to that there was this space for everybody helping everybody else to survive, as opposed to creating these spaces of haves and have-nots. And that's the thing. I don't know if it surprised me as much as it just saddened me, as like, and then how quickly that started to happen, to kind of where we're at today, right? We've got massive extremes between those that do have and those that don't, in part because of how we treat work as a means of being compensated. And then that compensation is tied into our ability to survive, right?
Yeah, definitely. Hannah, did you want to add to that, or did you?
Yeah, so in parallel, I'm also taking another program which is called a positive intelligence, and it talks about some saboteurs in our mind. And one of the saboteurs that they talk about is the overachiever, which in a way I feel like it relates to this, right? Whether or not it's a fundamental human concept, because we all have these saboteurs in our mind that, hey, you have to do more, you have to do more. And just the question is whether or not the voice is getting louder and louder by the time. Yeah, so that's one thing I thought I share here.
I love that. I'm only going to be able to take Kyle next. Sorry, Julia. We'll definitely prioritize you for the next one. Kyle, go for it.
So, it didn't surprise me, but I'm coming at this from the perspective of how has productivity changed output, right? So as we improve our productivity, we produce more. And where does that come from? It comes from the company being able to raise its bottom line. And it also comes from the perspective of how has the motivation for humans changed over the last 200 years since the industrial age? So now, instead of working toward this concept of I'm going to go work and get food for today and we'll be able to eat, now I can buy an iPad, or now I can buy a material possession, or you get where I'm going with this. So my big perspective is, no, I'm not surprised by it, but I think that when we look at the motivations, it really should tell us, why are we as individuals trying to work so hard?
Yeah, and asking those really big questions. It's not lost on me that we're all working in tech and having very demanding jobs. I think taking a pause to ask these questions can make us all better leaders and really aware of the different factors at place. So thank you for being brave with us and like asking these questions. The next kind of section is about polluted time and work-life balance. One of the most common adjectives used to describe a modern rockstar CEO is workaholic. It's usually intended as a compliment or a sign of respect. The empty desk beside you might belong to a coworker who apparently doesn't take the job as seriously. This quote is really bringing out, Andrew, what you were sharing earlier, the like, oh, I'm kind of like in constant competition, and that subliminal kind of thing that we have. Celeste also brings up polluted time, a phenomenon caused by having to handle work duties off hours, being on call, or even having to think carefully about work issues or problem solving while technically not on the job. That question of what keeps you up at night is so funny, because oftentimes it's in a work-related context, but it assumes that it bleeds into your day-to-day life. And perpetually, this starts to create this toxic cycle where we have this time is money concept. We work longer hours, we feel guilty about resting, we burn out, and then we look to some life hack or book that's going to cure our burnout, and then we start the entire process over again. And so really, when we actually try to cure burnout, the question isn't what life hack can I use, but actually, how do I break this time is money equivalency? And how do I actually decouple that, unlearn it, and try to renegotiate what that looks like? So how do you define work-life balance? What would an ideal work-life balance look like? And in your opinion, is it still possible to completely separate work and life? Let's talk about this next. Oh, a hand right away. Thank you so much, Julia, for waiting. Go for it.
Well, I couldn't think of it before, but now this definitely resonates with me. But mainly because I don't know about you guys, but I've mainly worked in companies that have a global presence. So a lot of the time when you're working at your off hours, it's because it's like morning time in a different country, or you're working on Sunday because it's Monday in, a different country, and people there need the information you have. So this like blend of work and life has to do more with like the fact that we've gone to working in global environments than to like, oh, I can't stop myself from working on a Sunday or on a different day. And I don't know if that's going to change. So, and then the ideal work-life balance question, like, I think, for me, it's the one gift of being able to work in multiple time zones is the flexibility to kind of like manage your time. Like your time is no longer measured by like, oh, I'm at my desk from 9 to 5, because you might have like a 9 or 10 p.m. call with your like India team or your like, you know, Europe team, and that's known. And so if you leave at like 2 or 3 in the p.m. to go to your kids, you know, to pick up your kid or do whatever, that's totally understood and acceptable because you're working hours that are accommodating towards other like geographies. So I don't know if that's going to change. You know, I think, you know, is it possible to completely separate work and life? Not where it's going with, you know, companies going more and more global and hiring folks from different time zones and different places.
Such awesome observations. I love your call out to distributed work and its effects. I think it's unrealistic to assume that we can just shut off all time zones and exist in silos and just completely shut out the world. So really appreciate that call out. Ashik, go ahead.
Thank you. So I think Julia already covered some of the work-life balance that I was about to talk about. Maybe I'll extend it a little bit and say that in certain professions, it is possible to actually separate work and life balance. But recently we are seeing a phenomenon like I'm from Bay Area startups, you know, a little bit high pressure startups there. And we started talking about work-life integration or work-life harmony. Just to give you an example, for example, let's say I have to go to a dentist appointment at a Thursday, 11 o'clock during office hours. I actually go there. Doesn't matter, I'm taking out from office, I'm not taking time off from office because I am also answering a email at Saturday night. So we are exchanging, instead of actually having a clear boundary, I am giving something to my company and taking, give and take. So we are calling it work-life harmony or work-life integration. It may not work for all professions, but I think it is feasible. So far, I'm seeing that it's been working for me. So I thought to coin that term to you.
I love the call out that we're, even though we get stuff from this flexibility, we're also giving, and that it's not free, that this flexibility does come at some sort of cost. I think that's brilliant. And I just want to do a call out before I pass you the mic to you, Jonathan. In one of the earlier sessions, somebody said, even the idea of work-life balance is ordered all wrong. We should be calling it life-work balance because life should be coming first, ideally. So just wanted to throw out that mad fire that was spat a few hours ago. Jonathan, go for it.
Yeah, I think one of the things I think about is that this balance between life and work for me is not only about like the structural boundaries that I must draw in my day, but it's about the like mental boundaries and the cognitive load that I have from having a profession and having a life. And I think for me, the two are inextricably tied. And as such, I have now in my career used that like pollution factor, that word pollution. And if like that's going up, that means that something is wrong in my role, something is wrong with how I'm doing my job. And so just keeping an eye on that pollution and how much like mental noise is coming from the work side of things, because they are, for me, inextricably tied.
I love that. And also, I think it calls out this very crucial thing about work-life balance. It almost makes it sound like it's a static thing that you either have it or you don't, but we're always constantly fighting and renegotiating and having to innovate in order to create that balance for ourselves. So really great stuff, folks. The next section, the joy of idleness. Idleness in this view is not inactivity. Idleness is really time in which one is not actively pursuing a profitable goal. It means you are at leisure. There is considerable scientific research demonstrating that idleness is good for you. And as we look into it, she gives a lot of different stats. I just threw out the key kind of benefits that she was listing, but idleness drives innovation. When you're bored, you fix things. You protects your health. It actually makes you more effective. It contributes to healing and trauma recovery, and also increases your creativity. These are just some of the things that doing nothing, quote unquote, or at least investing in play can really have. And so I wanted to ask, what did idleness mean to each of you before reading this book? And then what does it mean to you now? And how can you embrace more idleness in your day? No shame, by the way, if folks didn't actually get to reading the book. If you listened to the book or didn't get to it, it's completely fine. We don't shame folks for doing that. So yeah, please, what does idleness mean? Go for it, Courtney.
I definitely unfairly equated idleness to laziness, and I'm sure a lot of us have. I also have like an added layer of complexity. So I have ADHD that is of the combined type, but I feel it most in the hyperactivity. And like sometimes when I'm sitting on a couch, my brain literally goes like, go do that thing, go do that thing. And it is incessant. And I feel like I have to get up and do the thing. And so I think now that I've been reading this book and thinking more about the ways in which like I will self-pressure to do things. I think that's like the first step for me is like recognizing that the only person putting this pressure on me is myself.
Truer things have never been said. Thank you so much for sharing. As a person with OCD, I definitely feel that like it's like added pressure that certain mental alignments have. Andrew, go for it.
So similar to Courtney, I felt the same way, right? Analyst for me was I'm lazy. Again, going back to my Asian culture is like my dad always taught me like if you're not doing something, you're just lazy. Someone else is gonna outwork you. So it's always been how I felt for the most part. After reading it more, I'm trying to embrace more idleness and laziness because, for example, for me, like I now being working like I work from home more often than none. I love to sit on my chair on my couch and just think, right? And whiteboard something, especially on the IT problems that I have to solve on day to day, where I love the quietness and that where if I'm in office, I'm getting pinged all the time, especially as a director, I get asked a lot of questions a lot of times where I can't focus on thinking on some things or again, the problem solving that I do. That's the thing that Analyst now lets me do. And then I try to embrace that more often where I purposely schedule time where it's like I'm in a meeting per se, I'm not. I'm sitting on my ass in the corner thinking about things to do and just decompressing from anything for the most part to help me answer or figure out the best problem from time to time to help me out. So that's kind of how I felt and what's helped me out in terms of like being more idle and being and embracing and being like it's okay. That's what Corey says, right? It's me that needs to just accept it, and not feel that way.
Yeah, and a call out there, I think a lot of office environments require us to multitask to succeed. You're expected to answer a question and also be working and also like walk to the meeting all at the same time. And really saying, actually, I'm just going to strategize or I'm just going to sit on the couch and look out the window is completely valid too. Hannah and Julia, I actually don't know who raised their hand first. Can you help me out? Okay, does it matter? I'll just, Julia, go for it.
Also, just to go on the like neurodivergent discussion, I actually have autistic people in my family and they need time to decompress. And that's actually kind of similar. You could also say introverts, like, so this definitely made me realize, and like they already kind of blame me for overscheduling. Like I wouldn't say blame, but it's okay to get super, like just your day-to-day like work takes a lot out of people, and for kids it just the school part takes a lot out of them, and it's okay to just chill and not have to like be signed up to like violin lessons and soccer and have everything be scheduled. So it's something that I definitely like struggle with because everyone around me I feel like is in like this club or that club or doing this thing and that thing, and my family like makes me realize that like it's okay, like we just need to chill, like the time we give is already a lot. So
Yeah, I love that. I think it brings up really two powerful concepts. One, the idea of busyness is like incorporated into how we parent and what we ask of our kids, and we kind of teach them to be busy from an early age. And two, as parents, you feel this kind of pressure to keep your kid busy because then if you don't, maybe you're withholding certain experiences or kind of putting them at a disadvantage. And so it's this interesting pickle to get caught there. Hannah, I know you had your hand raised. Did you want to share what you had?
Yeah, I just feel like when I look at the word idleness, it reminds me of what we're trying now very hard to learn being mindful. So we have this search inside yourself and, like, let's do a meditation, 1 minute to arrive and so on. Also incorporate, I don't know if you guys also have that kind of practice. In a way, it's also like, hey, let's just try to spare a moment to just be free, to just, pay attention to our breath or whatsoever. I feel like this is somehow related. We learn from our parents, from, like from our education, from our upbringing. Okay, well, we have to pack our schedule. And then now we reach to a point that we have to actually unlearn that and then learn again. Okay, well, how can we just be free and just stay focused on very, very tiny little thing? Let it be visual, let it be, you know, breathing or even tasting or walking. Yeah, that's the part. I think how I could embrace more idleness in my daily life.
I love it. I love also just like if mindfulness and meditation is your form of idleness, that's fantastic. If playing the new Legend of Zelda game gives you idleness, that's also fantastic. We all have different things that help us tick, and embracing that is really important. So next we're going to do a limiting belief workshop. This is a little bit more, if you were at our radical candor workshop, it's a little bit more touchy-feely than tactical, but I think and hope that it'll help you get to know the other manager in the room and help you kind of understand a little bit more about yourself. And so we're talking about limiting beliefs here. Is this a familiar concept to folks in the room? I can also dive in. Okay, getting some head nods. Limiting beliefs are those kind of shadow statements. They live in the kind of dark sides of our minds, and they stop you from pursuing something you want. The kind of phrase, I'm not good enough, or I always need to prove myself, is a great example of a limiting belief because it kind of drives behaviors that you might not be aware of. These things prevent you from seeing opportunities that come your way. They keep you kind of narrow-minded. They keep you from appreciating your own talents, strengths, and self-worth, and they literally limit or hold you back. And so we're going to be discussing those. The first scenario, what is your limiting belief about being productive? An example of that, if I work more hours, I'll get more work done. And that might have worked as an IC, but maybe as a manager, it looks very different. So we're going to throw you all into a breakout room. You'll be one-on-one. You're going to get to know that person in the second scenario that we do. You'll probably have a total of 10 minutes with this person. So get to know them, make a little friend, and please treat conversations with compassion because these are pretty touchy topics. So I will see you in a sec. Monica is busy setting up our breakout rooms.
Yes, I need about 1 more minute. It's being a little bit slow today, but in 1 minute, everybody will be invited into a room that is private. It is not being recorded. You will have 5 minutes to discuss the assignment. And you will get a 1 minute warning before 1 minute before the room closes.
And by the way, all of you are again, product technical and engineering managers. So you should have context at least, or at least a little bit of familiarity. Hopefully that helps. That's interesting. Hello. How was it?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I think everybody's gonna flood in just a second. Jonathan, is everything okay with your camera?
No.
Oh no.
No, but I know how to fix it.
Oh, okay, you're back. Hello. Welcome
Hello.
back, everybody. So obviously nobody is under any pressure to share if you don't feel comfortable. There's of course a lot of therapy stuff happening, but with a limiting belief, does anybody want to share and perhaps reframe how they could talk that limiting belief into something more positive? So yeah, I'm actually more than happy to go first. For me, like I've realized through doing this exercise, my limiting belief is like, I don't belong in this space. I'm too young, I'm transgender, I'm like a person of color, and those factors kind of make me feel, okay, if I do want to try to imposter belong, I should just work really hard. If I'm like the first person in the office, the last person out, then nobody will question who I am because I'm a hard worker. And that's just how I tried to go. And realizing, oh, what if I just acted like I belonged in places that maybe I don't feel like I belong? Maybe I wouldn't have to prove myself constantly. So that's how it shows up for me. Anybody want to talk about their limiting belief? No, it's really scary. So if not, we can just move on to the next one and discuss in our little 101 groups. Okay, Jonathan, go for it.
Yeah, one of the things that I was kind of thinking about is this idea that, oh, if I'm just a little bit more productive, then I will be able to meet the demand of like busyness supply. And I have like productivity is like a demand. If I just like do enough, then I'll be able to reach some like ideal state that I won't feel busy anymore, or like work won't be as busy, work will slow down, or I will be able to somehow meet the demand for the time. And so, maybe that's a limiting belief for me.
Yeah, the idea that there's an end to the to-do list is like a very attractive concept that might not be true. Kevin, I saw your hand up earlier. Were you interested in sharing?
Yeah, so I think for me, one of the big things is just the timeliness of responding. We work as a globally distributed company. So my manager is in Paris, the designer I work with is in London, my engineering counterpart is in Brazil. And so, take that combined with an even broader team that has questions for products at all hours of the day is trying to make sure that I feel like I need to stay on top of that. And I've even noticed that in the absence of other people responding in the Ask Product channel, people tend to just tag me because they see that I'm typically the most active product person in there, and that they know I will go and bug someone or tag the appropriate person. So on one hand, it's I feel the need to respond. On the other hand, it does perhaps show a level of understanding of the broader platform and how all the pieces fit together. So at least that's how I try and spit it in a positive light, that I'm able to show and learn about our platform more than just my one little sliver of the platform.
Yeah, and I'm missing a lot of context here, but also hopefully other people will step up if you've stepped down a little bit to answer those questions or be able to handle that stuff. You're not the only person that is responsible for upholding the entire product, hopefully. And so it's a tough position to be in demand on a globally distributed team. That is not easy whatsoever. Amazing. So let's move on to scenario 2 and throw you back in those breakout rooms. This time we're going to be talking about your limiting belief about leisure or idleness and what keeps you back from being able to relax. We're going to open up the rooms again and you get to meet your person again.
The rooms are open.
Yay. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hopefully you all had a good conversation. You didn't leave some magical kind of mystery to the cliffhanger. Does anybody want to share one of their limiting beliefs? Okay, wow, hands are up. Kyle, go for it.
I was sharing how I get this cycle where I will be playing a video game, one of my leisure activities, and then I'll be sitting there thinking about all the other things that I have to do. Like, I should paint that wall, I should fold my laundry. And then I don't enjoy the leisure activity, so I never actually disconnect from what I need to do to what I'm supposed to be enjoying. It's crazy.
Yes, absolutely. And you get some resonance in the chat there. Andrew says in all caps, me too, which is definitely nodding heads there. Ashik, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think my situation is a little bit more severe than Kyle. So according to the idleness definition in this book, I feel like I have a lot of idle time. Like, I don't do work for a long period of time in my day, but the non-work time, I do something that takes a lot of focus and energy for me. For example, let's say I play chess, a very intensive demand, or read books and so on. I have been trying to make some time for 10 minutes meditation a day, and I'm not getting that time, although I have like 20 hours of idle time in a day. So I think I don't really have idle time in the actual real sense, and I'm planning to address this. Yeah, I'm in that trap right now.
I think that recognition and that honesty with yourself is going to take you pretty far, but it's hard to recognize like, oh crap, all of my hobbies are kind of side hustles and I'm doing them because they're going to make me better or a better person or smarter or something. And to actually say, wait, when was the last time I did something just for the sheer fun of it is a big question to ask. Yeah. Amazing. Anybody else want to share? Otherwise, we can move on to the manager roundtable. And by the way, Kyle, to call out, I absolutely am a to-do list collector. And it's so stressful to be like, oh man, I just noticed that line of dust right next to my wall. I should take care of that. Whereas focus on the video game is definitely something I need to tell myself. So this is now time for a manager roundtable for the last 10 minutes. We're just opening up the floor for any questions related to the book or otherwise that you can ask to your fellow engineering, product, and design managers. So if somebody's going through something, we do kind of ask for a cone of silence here too. We can kind of adjust the recordings if needed, but basically just, yeah, feel free to share what's been going on. Please, yeah, Julia, go for it.
I don't know how many of you are like managers or leaders, and I think the part that I'm struggling with, that I don't know if any of you guys are, is just this notion of having to create output, and that's work. And that's, you know, as like a knowledge worker, someone who's in like management or leadership, like I have meetings, I talk to people, I coach people, and like something in me like doesn't feel like I'm actually working. And so when I feel like when I'm even reading the book, you know, it's like, oh, like, you know, you're working more than 40 hours a week. Like, I don't think it's the same as being in a factory, you know, but because I feel like especially the more you get into leadership roles, the less tangible, like the work that you produce is, the harder it is to like mentally feel like, oh, I'm actually like overworking, or I've actually like worked quite a bit. Like half the time I feel like I'm so tired, but I don't know why. I just had like a bunch of one-on-ones and, you know, like some virtual meetings, and like, what did I even do? I sat in this chair like most of the time, and like I feel like guilty, or like I'm not actually being productive.
You're getting a lot of head nods in this room right now. Ashik, go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, I want to not really answer it, but maybe explain how I see. So in management, it's very difficult to measure a manager's performance. One measure is to self-measurement, am I doing good as a manager, or am I doing working? Another is externally, other people evaluating me. So I think I want to focus on the self-satisfaction. Am I doing a good work? When I see, I know my output is there, but when I'm a manager, my job is to, depending on my leadership style, is to step back and let the team succeed, unblock them, put the right people in the right place. However, if things fail, then take the responsibility on my shoulder. I see it as a manager's job. And it's very hard to actually see how I am doing other than getting other people's feedback. So I see that confused. And I think when we sign up for management, we know that we are going to go through this. We are going to miss that completion, that recognition from others. And it's part of the job description that I think we have signed up for. Yeah.
Very well put. And the kind of like, it's almost impossible to measure the performance of a manager. It's so accurate. Laura, go for it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the same. I feel that too. And it's actually part of my own limiting beliefs is if I'm not doing outputs, it's especially in the environment with like layoffs happening, like I don't have value anymore. One of the things that I try to do to kind of overcome it is think about the outcomes I want my team to achieve and what those might look like, rather than like specific output count. So like, I'm trying to think, for example, my team has an outcome of we regularly are talking to our users for a design team. And so we have an output number there, but the way that we measure it is kind of, hey, is very, very flexible. And so the outcome there being, hey, we know we've done this and I have led, right, and made space for the team to have these discussions, rather than having some sort of documentation or some sort of output for people to look at. We created an output to kind of record it, where it's like, here's how many hours we did, but the outcome is still such that like, hey, the team had opportunities to do this. It helps a little bit, is what I'll say. And it's definitely different than the outputs that I would have been doing as a designer, like an individual contributing designer for sure. Just kind of a little bit of a mind shift.
Yeah, love that tip, Laura. Thank you for sharing. Kyle.
I actually had, in line with this conversation, for the first time ever in the history of working in tech, I had a really great answer to what do you do? One of my neighbors asked me, and when I was an engineer, it was easy. I could measure with, oh, I built this app or I did this thing. It was super easy to answer the question. But now as a manager, my focus is how I grow people. So what do I see in them that I can coach? How do I keep them motivated? How do I ensure that we're reaching all of our goals? And so my answer went from I work in tech and I build things to I work in tech, but I focus on helping my team reach their career goals. And it felt really good when I walked away and I was like, wow, that's the first time I've ever actually answered that as a manager correctly. So I don't know, I want to share that.
That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that win with us. That's so powerful. Andrew.
Yeah, same as Kyle. Like as a person who used to do like social architect, design stuff, no problem, easy peasy, any day of the week. But as a manager now, even what Laura said about the mental capacity or you're just done, it's taxing to talk to one-on-ones, every day, to kind of like mental like stability to help somebody hear their problems. How do I fix that problem? How do I make them better? Right? That takes a lot out of you, plus your meetings. You know what I mean? I had that a lot from time too. And that's something that I've learned as a manager is to understand that I'm not solutioning problems anymore. I'm, as Kyle said earlier, I am helping people grow. Giving something back, where as myself, as I grew as where I was today, I didn't have that. I'm giving back to that. So to the way that I define my output per se is how are my people better? Am I promoting them? Are they getting their promotion? Are they coming back and say, hey, dude, I left this job, but I remember you and everything like that, and I appreciate all that work that you've done for me. Or people who want to follow me and work for me. That to me is the output as a manager that you want to provide. And to me, that's what makes me, at least how I see myself as a manager, and the value that I bring, or the output per se for me, is that I'm helping people grow, and that I'm somehow making their life better where maybe I haven't, or I'm imparting wisdom to them that maybe they didn't know. To me, that's the output, the whatever KPI you want to call that gives me joy per se, in terms of my management skills, where I feel like I am accomplishing something. Where I know before as an architect or engineer or developer or whatever, I used to, this tangible, I just build products, for example, or I fix a solution like that. So it's a little bit different the way I see it now as a manager.
I love that so much. And just want to do a quick call out. This is, of course, the Product Engineering Leaders Group. We've had 5 sessions in total today. Every session so far, this version of this question has come up, and everybody that has answered it in very similar ways. You'll notice it has nothing to do with the functional role that you have. It's all about the people. And that's what a manager's job does, but outside of, like, regardless of function. So really powerful stuff. Okay, we kind of have time for like a quickie, if somebody has like a really quick question. Otherwise, I can dive into the resources. Jonathan, a physical hand raise.
I'll give you a quick one. I think I'm hearing an invitation for us to separate our busyness from our worthiness. And if we can give that gift to ourselves, then we can give it to the people that follow us and work for us.
That was beautiful. Wow. I might just grab that clip and just like throw it out there. Thank you for leaving us with that. And I just want to call out a few resources just so you can get the most out of this book club. First off, I saw so many books being raised. Thank you for buying the book. Thank you for reading alongside us. Thank you for bringing your whole self to this session. It's literally what makes this group so special. Resources, Book Club Hub. If you haven't seen it already, the link was thrown earlier. I can toss a link in again in a second. You want to lean into this. This is how you can ask Celeste Headlee a question. You do need to submit it into a form. It's how you can find everybody's LinkedIns and add everybody from this group and make some lifelong friendships. So just know that this resource is here for you. As well, we have a bunch of resources that will be kind of trickling through the emails. So if my email has been going into spam, please remove it from that so you can get more notifications. We also have the session next week, around this time next week, where Celeste Headlee will be there. So you actually get to hear her speak. There's a live Q&A going on, and we can talk to her about why she wrote this wonderful book that's been blowing everybody's minds. As always, you can try Kona for free. You can schedule a free well-being workshop for Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm offering free workshops. So quick call out if you have a team that's actively burning out and you want to maybe spark a conversation, let's talk. And lastly, please recognize yourselves. This is not easy work. This is a lot of unlearning. A lot of the stuff that we did in order to get to the positions we are now, we're kind of not super healthy. And now we need to take a step back and relearn and reorient ourselves into that. But hopefully I don't know. I'm just going to leave, just sit with what Jonathan said, because I think that summed it up so beautifully. And anyway, thank you for coming. I will see you next week, hopefully. If not, we'll send the recording over and take care. Please try to do nothing. Yay. Thank you.